Greetings, church family. I'm excited to come to you today in this ad hoc pastor team show here with Dr. Tom Webster as we talk about some of the things that the Lord is doing in our church. Tom, this has been a fantastic year, 2023. We have just seen the Lord work in remarkable ways. I think about just some of the events that have happened. We're not even at the halfway mark of this year, and we've seen a great men's ministry event, great women's ministry event. We did a ministry fair that was just fantastic. I've never been to a ministry or a missions fair quite like that, and it was well received in our church. And then Easter at the Coliseum this year, that was a big risk, but that was a great success, and we were able to share the gospel with so many people in our community. Got such good feedback from that. And then, we came out of that, and we had Vacation Bible School, great event there. We also, we have youth on youth camp this week. We just had our Ecuador missions team return a few days ago, and they had a great trip. We've got several college students on mission this summer, literally spread around the world. We've been working on receiving and reaching out to these college freshmen that are coming in, SFA's class that'll come in this next year. They've been coming to town for college orientation, and Caleb tells me that we're just having better traction than we've had in the past, and we've had great success in the past. I know our minister team got together yesterday. We just prayed by name for some of those incoming freshmen, and very excited about that. And then just to see how some staff things have come together. And so our church, in search of a Hispanic minister, and Tom, you led that search, you and the search team, we were introduced to Vic and his family, and I just was amazed. He exceeded everything I had hoped for, and I think everybody that met him had the same takeaway. In fact, our church rallied. We vote for these full-time ministers as they come on. Our church rallied in that vote in a greater way than we have in years and years. It just was an affirmation. For me, it was an affirmation from the Lord that our church is together, we're focused, and we're excited about sharing the gospel with all people. And so, Tom, I'm sure I'm leaving some really big things out, but it's been a good year. It's been a busy year.
It's still June. It's not even July yet, and I'm tired for hearing the list. It's fantastic.
Well, still a few things on that list for the rest of 2023.
Yes, sir.
It's been a good year. You know, our staff team, Tom, our ministers, our support staff, probably a lot of people in our church don't realize just how many people serve here. Some in very public roles, so people would be aware of that, but many behind the scenes. All the people, 20 plus people full time, I think. Hadn't counted them recently, but a ton of people working here just to make all of that possible. And, I just think we've got the best staff team. Our ministers, they care for each other. They cheer each other on. When we come together for minister meetings, everybody's on the same page. That's not always the case in churches, but it is here. We don't have any conflicts. We don't have any, sore spots on our ministry team. We just, we've got gifted ministers who love the Lord and who are excited to work together. The Lord's been good to us. Now, we added our executive administrator here in the last few months, and that's if we've had a setback, that's been our setback. We brought in Scott Perry. I was very excited to bring him into the church. A lot of trust, confidence in Scott. And Scott was here for a few weeks. He and his wife Heather, and they really made this their home, beginning to make good connections. And already in those short weeks, though he was still figuring out where everything was, he really helped us take some good steps to be more organized and more focused. But Scott had some illness in his family, his father and his mom struggling. And Scott, I know it was a very hard decision for him, and I know it was a painful decision because Scott feels like he has let us down. He has not let us down, but Scott had to resign. Chose to resign and to go back and take care of his parents, especially his father, who is struggling with Parkinson's and some other issues. And so I hope people are praying for Scott and Heather. His father's name is Mike. Be praying for Mike. His mother's name is Sarah, Mike and Sarah. And just be in prayer for them. And I hope Scott will come back and visit soon. He's a good friend, and now he's a friend of our church. And I hope he and Heather will make their way back here for a weekend or two this year. I'd love to see them. But Scott's departure left a big hole. This is a complicated and a busy place, and we need someone in charge of all of these moving pieces and all of these spinning plates. And so when Scott had to step away, it was pretty urgent that we find some way to make sure that everything is done in order, all of the facilities, the finances, the staff, the calendar, the 1,000 pieces there, that we've taken care of all of that. And so I began to pray just immediately after the big conversation I had with Scott, where it just was apparent that he was going to have to provide round-the-clock care for his family, his dad, and thinking about what are we going to do next, and how can we not get in too big of a hurry, but how can we take care of this responsibility, this need, in a way that will not allow our ministries to be hindered, but more than that, to allow us to go forward in an even greater way. And so I really, and I'm careful when I say these kind of words, because sometimes people read more into them than they should, but I really felt the leadership of the Lord not to begin to conduct some national search. Now, we do that sometimes, and some of our staff members now came to us because we just searched the nation for the best person for that position and brought in people that we didn't previously know. But as I began to think and pray about this, the Lord just, I believe, highlighted in my heart the fact that we have here right on our staff an incredibly gifted, experienced administrator, someone whose faithfulness to the Lord and whose trustworthiness we know thoroughly and completely, someone that we know is bought in to the vision of our church, someone who loves our church, loves the people of Nacogdoches and our community. I think if we did an international search, we couldn't find a better fit than Tom Webster. And so I sat down and shared this possibility with Tom. No arm twisting, or no,
That's true.
no hard arm twisting. So, no, honestly, I shared with Tom that if he didn't have an interest, then that's fine. No changes. We'll just begin our search. But that if he did have an interest, if it was, if this was a way that he believed, he and Angela believed that he could just invest his heart in. That I'd like to talk about that. And so, Tom, you and Angela spent some time talking and thinking and praying, and then you came back and said, well, let's continue to talk. And so we did, and we talked about some of the challenges that would come with you taking over the executive administration responsibilities here. We talked about some of the problem solving, some of the ways that perhaps we could mitigate the challenges. And I just think the Lord brought us to a great place, a great plan for to accomplish all of our goals and to safeguard the things that we want to safeguard. So I know I'm doing all the talking here. Tom, I'm going to get to you in a moment. But let me just give a quick overview of what we've decided to do. And Tom, help me, because I may leave some key pieces out and unintentionally, and I want to make sure we cover everything. So, and by the way, worked through the personnel committee, sit down with most of the personnel committee members, everybody I could get, just almost immediately walk through this one at a time or two people at a time. And with our chairman of deacons, then we met with our personnel committee formally to get their buy-in. They were 100% supportive of this. I brought in our finance chairperson and also our chairman of deacons for that meeting to be a part of that. We just wanted to have all the heads and all the hearts at the same table when we made our final decisions. And I appreciate their support. And they asked some good questions, and it helped us to clarify what the plan is. So here's the plan. So we're changing Tom's title from worship pastor to associate pastor of worship and administration. And so here's how that's going to work. I'm going to start doing all the singing on Sunday morning. And then, no, it's not going to work like that. Tom, my greatest fear, I've got this little microphone, on Sunday mornings around my head so that I can preach. My greatest fear is that the sound guys are going to make a recording of me singing during the congregational singing. And I just think that would be the end of my ministry. I think I would become a hermit.
I'm just glad you sing. A lot of pastors will just sit there and not participate in worship. And I enjoy knowing that you're part of the worship experience prior to your sermon. And that's wonderful.
Well, I am a terrible singer. Ask my wife; she'll be quick to tell you. But I love to sing, and this is a whole nother subject. But I love our Sunday morning schedule. We do the celebration and the summit, and our church people know what all's involved in that. But I tell you, if there's any negative, Tom, it's that my back and forth keeps me from worship, and I so miss. Having 25 minutes of just worshiping. I see other ministers, and I'm not being critical of them. Maybe I'm highlighting my deficiencies, but ministers notice ministers, pastors notice what other pastors do. And so when I'm in other churches, whether it's on vacation or I'm doing something in another church, a lot of times I'll look over at the pastor who's about to speak during the song service, and he's reading his Bible, rereading the passage, or he's looking at his notes. And that's not because he's not prepared. That's his way of making sure when he stands up, he is ready to go. And so, no criticism of that at all. And I've done that, I'm sure. But what I really need to be ready to preach isn't to look at my notes again, but for me, it's singing and worshiping and connecting and honoring the Lord and being reminded of who He is and who I am and what the responsibility is. So, I miss that. I really miss that. All right, so I'm way off base here. So Tom's position has changed from worship pastor to associate pastor of worship and administration. So Tom is going to take over most of the executive administrator duties that we had put together for Scott Perry. Now, that's a lot for Tom to do. He had a pretty full-time job before he took on these added responsibilities. So we're going to do two things. We're shifting some of Tom's responsibilities to other ministers, and we're going to hire some staff support for Tom to take care of some of these responsibilities as well. And one of the things we want to do is really safeguard Tom's time. Tom tends to overwork. Tom tends to overcommit. And the bad thing about his overcommitment is he then overfollows through. And, we've benefited from that around here, but we want to protect Tom and Angela. And so we've put some very specific plans in place to make sure that this is hopefully still a manageable assignment. And that's a conversation that we'll continue to have to make sure of that. So I'll come back to added staff in just a moment. But Tom now leads our celebration worship ministry, which means he will be the person on Sunday morning right there in front of the church leading the ministry. And he's the leader even behind the scenes. He is the leader of our celebration ministry, choir rehearsal, orchestra, those sorts of things. There will be somebody that'll work with him that'll take many of the behind-the-scenes responsibilities off his plate, but he will continue to be the leader of our celebration worship. Now, he will also do these administrative tasks, which include facilities and finances and the coordination of all that goes on around here. He'll be the leader. He'll really be the boss, everybody's boss. And I look forward to that. So that's Tom's role. Now, one of the things that Tom has done from his earliest days here is he's also been really the supervisor of our Hispanic ministry. And that's something that, well, Tom has just done a fantastic job. But that's a very time, that commitment, that leadership, that responsibility requires a lot of time. And so at Tom's suggestion, we're taking that ministry and we're moving it over to Mark. Mark is our associate pastor of ministries. That's been his title for a long time now. And Mark really oversees our children's ministry, youth ministry, college ministry, missions. So the staff involved in those ministries, they work with Mark. He is their supervisor. And so we will add to that our Hispanic ministry and our new Hispanic minister, Vic. Mark's roles are expanding a little bit as well. Another thing we've asked Mark to do, and really Mark's done this for a very long time, is just really to be the coordinator of all of our ministries. It's really easy because we have so many ministries, so many ministers, and everybody, advocates for their own little part of the church. It's easy for us to overschedule. It's easy for us to let one ministry event end up on top of another ministry event. And, there's just so many events that we can publicize and promote at one time, our facility, just our attention. And so we're asking Mark to really help us coordinate all of those things as we just think about how we're going to place different ministries on our calendar and our promotion plan. And so Mark's responsibilities are growing a little bit, and also Grant's responsibilities. So Grant's been our summit pastor. We're going to change his title a little bit as well. He will be the associate pastor of Summit and Outreach. And so underneath the outreach umbrella, he's going to help us with some special events. He's going to help us coordinate our visitors and our outreach to visitors and those kinds of things that'll be in conjunction with Melanie, our children's minister, with Mark, who handles our new member ministry. But Grant will be the captain of that, and Grant's going to help us with baptism. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with baptism as we're getting videos prepared, as we're making sure that people understand what's going on and that they have prayed to receive Christ and they're ready to go. And so with the help of some of our support staff, Grant will lead us in that ministry as well. And so this is really a promotion of those three men a little bit. We call the four of us, me and Tom and Mark and Grant, we call ourselves the pastor team. And while we have a bunch of ministers and everybody has equal value and everybody has an important ministry, it's the four of us who get together very often and work on some of these tough decisions, that have to be made from time to time. And so the three of them, Tom, Mark, and Grant, will each take on just a little bit more responsibility. And I think that will allow Tom to be successful and allow us to be able to handle well the executive administrative duties of our church without adding just a strictly executive administrator position that we had with Scott and previously with Jeff Thompson. Now, let me say just a word about added staff. I don't want to put priorities on it. It's all high priority, but we want to add a music associate. This will be a full-time minister. Many of you will remember Austin Ratliff. We brought him in several years ago. Young man looking to get some experience, came here, worked with Andre Simone. They worked very closely together. And, Austin has gone on. He is a lead worship pastor at a church in the Fort Worth area now, and just doing a fantastic job. And he'll tell you that much of the reason he is where he is because of the experiences he had here. And also we found him a wife. So that worked out well for him too. And worked out better for him than for her. I mean, really, if you know his wife, just fantastic lady. But we'll do something similar to that. And so Tom and there's a search team that is working with him, approved by our personnel committee. They will begin to search for an associate music person, minister, who can work alongside Tom to make this a little easier to manage. We also want to bring in, at least in the short term, maybe forever, but at least in the short term, we want to bring in an added finance person. This will not be a full-time position, just part-time. And we want to add somebody who can come in and work with Tom and work with Donna Burchett, who is our financial director, just to provide another set of eyes, just to be another backup to that. We have a great budget and finance committee. They meet almost every month. They review the previous month. They ask questions. They vote to approve it. I mean, we have a very formal process here. We bring in outside accountants that we hire to come in once a year just to review all of our books, make sure. So we got a lot of things in place, but just to make sure, because there are few things more important in a church than making sure you're handling money in the most trustworthy way possible. And there's just some complexities to this. HR with the government is becoming more complex every year, and all these financial requirements. And so we'll bring in a part-time person with some expertise in those areas to work with Tom and to work with our financial director, Donna. Now, we're also looking to bring in a couple of more part-time people to head up some of the ministries in our church. And we're still working on the details of that. But one would assist with some of the ministries that Tom handles to help him out a little bit there. And and it's not just to help him out, but to make those ministries, go forward even better. And then we're bring in another part-time minister who would really work with Mark and one of the ministries that Mark overseas in order to help that ministry continue to thrive, but also to make sure we're not overloading Mark as well. Listen, if anybody wonders what hard work looks like, just try to follow Tom, Mark, and Grant around for a week or two, and you'll be exhausted just watching them. These men love the Lord, love our church, love our community, and they just, they give it their all for us to be successful. Now, one more thing, and then Tom, I have questions for you. We're 25 minutes into this, and I wanted it to be mostly from you, and I won't stop talking. That'll be familiar to a lot of people in our church. But cost. What in the world does all this cost? We're adding all of these staff members. So I know people are curious about that. And I've got good news there. It's not going to cost us anymore because we're not continuing that position of executive administrator. We're able to take those expenses and more than cover the cost of all these other changes, smaller changes that we're making. And so just from a big picture point of view, just dollar and cent spreadsheet wise, this will be cash flow negative, positive. I don't know. There's a reason why I'm not in charge of the finances, but we're not doing this to save money, but it will save money. Not a lot of money. What I'm saying is this isn't a money thing, but it's not going to cost us more. It's not going to cost us more. And so there's not any big concerns there. So Tom, so I would love to just hear your thoughts. Why in the world did you agree to do this?
Well, I guess in large part, Pastor, because you asked me to. When you called me into your office that day, I was surprised. That was not what the conversation I was expecting to have. But Angela and I, we came here just a little over 2 years ago now, full time. Of course, we did the interim beforehand, but in that interim time, we just fell in love with this place. We fell in love with these people. We just so admire the staff, from your leadership all the way through the staff. You've already described the unity of the staff and how there's such a camaraderie within it, a cooperation, and a cheerleading mindset for everyone else. And it's we just continue to say this is a unique place, and the Lord called us here, and with great joy, I say, I get to do this. Angela is fond of saying it. We just can't believe we're getting to be here and live here and be a part of this, because this is a unique church. And so I'm thrilled, and first of all, Pastor, I'll say I'm humbled by the trust that you show in me for all of this, and that's a blessing on many levels. But for the Lord called us here, and the celebration piece is so important to me. It feeds my soul in a way that nothing has in a long, long time. The celebration ministry, the service, the choir, the orchestra, all the pieces that are involved in that. But in the end, we're about a bigger vision, and the vision that you've articulated for our church and where we're going and all the things, and to be a part of that on an increased level, to be able to serve alongside you and Mark and Grant and Hunter and Melanie and Jonathan and Caleb and just all of them. It's just amazing to be able to do that, and to have the opportunity to facilitate their work and the work of all the 120 plus ministries that we learned about at the missions fair a couple of months ago, and to be able to facilitate that, and to be a good steward of the resources that the church has provided us to do that, physical resources, financial resources, personnel resources, to be able to serve in a capacity that allows us to be good stewards of what the Lord is providing here for us to do his work, the work he's called us to do, is a tremendous honor, and one that I will not take lightly, one that I'm excited about, one that that gives me the opportunity to work with more people of the church than I was doing previously. Um, since we had this conversation, since this has begun to take place, and I want to speak in a moment just about the timing of all this and how I feel like it's just a tremendous timing issue for me. But I've been able to have meetings with people from various committees that I would not have otherwise interacted with closely, and I'm learning anew just how capable and how committed the lay leadership of our church is. How
Yeah.
so many people are involved in wanting our church to move forward, and they want to know how they can do it, and they're serving in very capable ways, and it's just been a blessing to do that. So
Well,
I'm honored
I
for the opportunity.
I'm so thankful, Tom, for you. I'm thankful for your giftedness and your skill and your industry, but I just love your heart and Angela, and what a great ministry team. And the two of you have added so much. You talk about this being a church where a lot of good things are happening. Well, a lot of that's happening through you and Angela, and so some of that you brought with you, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that. So here's the number one question I've gotten since we've begun to make this announcement. People have said, Tom already works too hard. What are we doing? Are we going to just run him into the ground? Are we going to lose him because he just burns out? And that is a concern. Tom, me and you have talked about that more than once, and I have strongly encouraged you to work less. It's interesting, through the years, I've had staff members that I've had to strongly encourage to work more, but you have been one of those that I have had to strongly encourage to work less. So, how is this not going to be just a source of burnout? What's the strategy there?
Well, I think primarily the strategy is you and I talk a lot, and that has been a part of our conversation for 2 years. And I do need that accountability, and I think that accountability is good. And I appreciate the fact that many people see the work that we do around here, and it's not just me, and it's other staff members as well. And I think that I'm surrounded by a group of people, you included, who know that might be a weakness of mine in a sense, and there's a level of accountability there. I have all the staff members have a deacon support team and a prayer team, and they're aware of my inclination to work too hard. But I tell you what, since I came here 2 years ago, I've created some new habits that have been very helpful to me, and I've never had a job in like this one where I was expected to take one of the weekdays for myself because Sunday's a work day, and I have been pretty good about that. At your urging and other people's urging, it doesn't always work that way in ministry. You can't always just take the day. You've got to attend to what's happening in the church. But it's going to be a weekly conversation. The strategy is continuous accountability. And I think, and I mentioned earlier about the timing situation, the timing of this is very positive for me because this is all happening as we enter the summer months. I'm not working on Easter at the Coliseum. I'm not working at Christmas at First. I don't have a major event on the immediate horizon. And so the learning curve of this new responsibility, which in some areas is fairly significant, I have time on my schedule right now to get on top of some things. I'm familiarizing myself with the finances of the church and working with finance committee members. I'm familiarizing myself with the insurance issues, some HR issues, things like that, just so I'll have my feet on the ground on areas that were not part of my responsibility before. And the timing of that is good because it's June and July when we're doing other things, but the major elements where we understand that many people in our church right now are traveling and things are happening, and so the calendar is a bit lighter. So it's just amazing to me. If this were happening in October or November, I would be drowning but and perhaps the Lord's providence, this is happening at a time when I have the ability to focus on some other things and make it all work. I'm also so thrilled that I'm surrounded by both the celebration ministry and throughout the church, just a group of people who are just volunteer leaders, volunteer support. And this music suite up here is filled with people throughout the week that are doing things. And people have said, what else can I do? What else can I do? Just someone in our church was here yesterday, and I gave her a brand new project that she's just taken on that's going to help me. And, that helps me, but it's also a place of service for them. And so I think also, in addition to the accountability, it's allowing people the opportunity and service in the way that they're gifted, and a way that brings them an opportunity to give back. So I've got to be mindful that I don't have to I don't have to solve every problem. I need to put people in place who can make things happen. And we have a group of people here who just want and need to do that. And I give a lot of credit for Mark in all of that, because Mark and Grant both, and all of our ministers, because they also have developed these support teams in a spirit of people knowing that part of their responsibility as a disciple of Christ is to serve the church. And sometimes that's a big ministry, and sometimes just helping out wherever it needs to be helped out. And we've got that culture, and I appreciate that. So there's a couple of ideas of how that's going to work, but Pastor, you hold me accountable, as I hope to do for you as well. You confessed in your sermon on Sunday that you worked all day Saturday on that sermon. So I appreciate that the relationship that we have in that.
Well, first, I'm glad you mentioned it. I love my deacon support team, and all the ministers, as you've said, have a deacon support team. It's all different, different deacons. And I met with mine last week, and I just, it means a lot, and thankful for that. Hey, so let me just ask one final question, and then anything else you want to add, of course. But so your wife Angela, does she spit when she says my name now, or is I know she doesn't curse, but I wonder if sometimes she spits. Is she on board with this? Because y'all are a team, and y'all are a ministry team. How does she feel about your greater responsibility now?
Well, Angela, since the day we moved here, she's been all in on this church, all the expression of love and care I express for this church. She does that tenfold. She loves these people, and in fact, she's a very loyal person. And one of the reasons that when we moved here, she continued to work at Carthage is she's been there. She first went there in 1999, and she's a loyal person, loves those people, and it's hard for her to disconnect. And but ultimately, she has now found a job much closer to our church, most closer to Nacogdoches. And she'll be starting there in the fall, and that's going to provide her more opportunities to be a part of the ministry and the work here. And so, in response to your question, not only is she supportive of whatever role we can play in this. She's excited to be a part of it also on a larger scale, as a support for me and the work that I do. But yeah, she will also now have opportunity to connect with people as I connect with people in the church that were not necessarily associated with celebration service or some of the areas that I was involved in. And so this has already been a very positive thing. But you asked about the support, the accountability. She'll be part of that accountability for me, as she always has been. And but no, she's very very much excited about taking for her a deeper step of involvement and help in the church as well, service.
Tom, I'm so thankful for you and Angela and what you mean to our church, what you mean to me and Donna and my family. And I really look forward to how the Lord is going to take this new org chart, these new assignments, and just help our church take the next steps. So if if people are still watching at this point, I am amazed and thankful to you. And if you have any questions about any of this, don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Tom. We'd
Or
love
better
to
yet,
help
Mark.
you. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, if you have questions, reach out to us. If you don't like it, reach out to Mark, and he'll be glad to meet with you. He'll come to your home. Come to your home, sit down. He'll pet your dog. He'll listen to you for hours. So good to have
Pastor,
him here
thank
for that.
you.
Thank you. Bye.